Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Vibrant Health Show, where we go over all things women's health. We talk about high-level education and also actionable steps that you can take right away to start looking and feeling your best. So welcome back today. Today, we're going to talk about what do you do when you feel like nothing's working, right? We have all been there at different times of our lives. Like, you know what? I feel like I'm trying to make the changes, but I'm not seeing or feeling the benefit I was expecting from the things I'm doing. Where do I go from here, right? That can be an incredibly frustrating situation. And I know I've been there myself in the past. So what do you do, right? Where do you start? What's the next step when you start feeling like that? I'm going to take you through some of my favorite, just different things. And for each of you, you might be at a different place in this journey. We'll talk about that as we go today. But what things can you start with? If you've tried one thing, what's the next step? Where do you go from there? Because the one thing I believe, and I talk about this a lot, and I think it's really important, especially if you've been on a health journey for a while, or if you've been struggling with chronic health issues, there is no plan B, right? People will always say, like, well, at what point do I not, like, if the healthy eating isn't working, or I've been exercising and I'm not losing weight, like, at what point do I just stop trying? Never, right? The answer is never. You never just say it's not important to eat well. It's not important to move my body. It's not important to manage my stress. Those things are going to be important no matter what, right? Those are foundational. We have to have those things in place. But the truth is, after working with thousands of women over the last 10 plus years, sometimes just food, exercise, and stress management isn't enough, right? Sometimes you have bigger pieces of your puzzle that you're missing, and that is what's keeping you frustrated and stuck. So no matter where you are in your journey, there is always another step, okay? There is always another piece that you can add to get you to that next place. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story with you guys again today, because I want you to know my healing was not linear by any means, right? It's not like I found out a couple of things, I made some changes, and I was healed, and then nothing else went wrong ever again, right? I wish that was the case for myself and for many of you, but this is an ever-changing just environment in our bodies, right? So there's a reason our company is called Journey to Wellness, right? And our tagline is, wellness is not a destination, it's a journey, right? You never get to healthy and then have to do nothing else to maintain it, right? If you stop doing all the things that got you well, your health is also going to disappear. So the first thing I want you guys just to understand is it's always worthwhile to make the changes, even if you feel like it's going slower for you. And that your journey to wellness never ends, right? It's always evolving. You're always finding something new or unpacking another layer or changing something different that's getting you one step closer to full functioning health and homeostasis, right? So don't give up. Maybe it's time to make the next change or the next switch. So let me take you through a little bit of my story. So if you've heard my story before, I was actually diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was 8 years old. So I have spent the majority of my life struggling with chronic fatigue, chronic pain, digestive issues, psoriasis, migraine headaches, most of my life. And I feel like for me, I would keep getting kind of one piece of my puzzle solved or kind of taken care of one piece at a time. And I would always be so excited for each piece of healing, but I would always be like, well, then why do I still have this thing? Or why do I still have this other thing? Or now I have this new thing that happened, right? I got rid of 7 things and now I have this new thing going on. And even with my own education, I would get really frustrated. So just to take you through kind of a quick timeline, 8 years old, struggling really badly. We did the medical route for many years for my health. Lots of prescription medications, general doctor's visits, neurologist, immune specialist, all the things. We did it all. And then I was introduced to my first kind of experience of holistic health was chiropractic work. So for a lot of people, getting adjustments, getting chiropractic work can help tremendously with things like joint pain and headaches, things I was struggling with. But I was also still having, remember, I had joint pains, I had headaches, I had chronic fatigue, I had digestive issues, I had a whole host of things. So I get my first adjustment and my headaches lessen. I start getting them a lot less frequently. They're not as intense. They're not turning into migraines anymore. I'm like, this is amazing, right? These chiropractic adjustments have helped me with my headaches and my migraines. Wonderful. But then I still had digestive issues and I still had more of that joint pain. I still had the fatigue. So from there, started getting more interested in learning about nutrition, about what things I could eliminate to help take inflammation out of my body. So went really deep into exercise physiology and nutrition, did my undergrad in those, really learned a lot of information about that, and started eating really healthy, exercising, building lean muscle, doing all the things that we're told are good for us, right? And that definitely helped, right? I felt like I had a little bit more energy. I felt more stable. So my headaches were getting better. My energy was getting better. Great. But I still had digestive issues. I still had psoriasis, head to toe. I still had anxiety. I still had all kinds of other things. Even though several things were better, I still had these other things over here. So fast forward, get to graduate school. Incredibly stressful, right? Lots of long hours, lots of things to do. So a couple of my issues that I felt like I had under control started coming back, because we know, especially for women, times of stress, times of hormone fluctuation, and times of other illnesses, we tend to flare our chronic issues. So my headaches started coming back. My joint pain started coming back, even though, here's what I want you to catch, I was still getting my adjustments. I was still eating well. I was still exercising and moving my body regularly. I was still doing the things that had originally helped me, but I felt like at that point, what I was doing wasn't working. Right? So have you ever felt like that? It's like, yeah, it helped for a little bit, or I dropped a few pounds, or I felt a little bit better, but then I turn around and I'm right back to square one. That can be defeating. And that's where I start hearing people say, like, why am I bothering, right? Why am I putting in all this effort, making all of these changes just to eventually feel like I'm at the same place, right? I've been there, but I encourage you, don't give up in that place, because from there, I started learning, well, wait a minute, maybe there's other more serious underlying issues that are creating these imbalances that I haven't addressed yet. And then I started to uncover for my own self things like a hormone imbalance, adrenal insufficiency. I had subclinical hypothyroid. I had a chronic Epstein-Barr virus. Like, there was all of these layers, which I actually kept learning one by one, right? So the first thing I learned about was my chronic Epstein-Barr. I started dealing with that, and it helped tremendously, right? I started sleeping better. My anxiety got better. My joint pain got better, but I still had a couple of other things that were lingering. Then I found out about my thyroid issues, and then I found out about my adrenal patterns. I started working on that. So slowly it kept knocking down one thing at a time. And then when I started feeling my absolute best, we got hit with COVID for the first time. And guess what? My Epstein-Barr reactivated. Yay, right? Like, all the fun stuff. It happens to me too. But I knew, okay, the same things I had been doing aren't going to get me through this next kind of different hump. What am I missing? What am I checking that I haven't thought about checking yet? What am I going back to that maybe I've let slide? I've got to get this back under control so I can get back to where I'm feeling good again. So I say all of that just to say we all go through it, but stopping, getting frustrated, not continuing to invest and work on your own health and your own self is not the answer. It's always just looking for what piece are you missing. Holistic healthcare, that is exactly what we do. What is the next missing piece? And for all of you, there is something. That is the most encouraging thing I can tell you today. If you are struggling, it's because there's a next piece that needs to be addressed every single time. You truly never come to the end of the road where you're like, oh, there's nothing else to do from here, because there's always something else you can continue to work on. So I hope that's encouraging and not discouraging news today. But what I want to go through with you is kind of the order of what things should you be looking at. And depending where you're at in your life, you choose, okay, I know I'm not doing this yet. That should be my next step. Okay, I'm not doing this yet. That should be my next step. And I'm going to give you a pretty lengthy list of things to go over today. That way I can hit just about where every single one of you are on your journey. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Take notes, choose one of these things, right? Every single one of us needs to do one of the things I'm going to cover today. So not a single person should walk away without some type of action plan that you are going to start moving forward. Number one, let's start simple. If you don't have your lifestyle modifications starting to work in the right direction, that is always where we start. I know I talk a lot about high-level changes and testing and hormones, and I love all of that. But if you haven't even started working on the basics, like the food that's going into your body, the hydration that you're getting daily, working on starting to maintain some stress management, those are the three places you start. So first and easiest is hydration. I talk about this every video. If you go back and watch my videos, I probably mention hydration every time because so many of us struggle with getting enough water, and it changes so many things. Just hydration. So if you are not getting half your body weight in ounces of water every single day, that's your starting place, right? If you haven't even gone that far yet, that's where you start. If you are there and you're like, yeah, I get enough water, I'm doing great with that. How's your nutrition? Do a really accurate kind of self-reflection. Really, what does your nutrition look like? Now, I don't need you to be perfect. You don't have to be 100%, but I do need you to start minimizing some of the most important things that we know create inflammation. If you missed my video yesterday inside the group, or I also have other videos about this, there are some really simple places to start. I believe if you would reduce your sugar intake, increase your vegetable intake, and reduce your consumption of gluten, those 3 things are going to get you a large step of the way in the right direction. So if you don't know where to start and it's overwhelming and there's so many different options out there, start with those things. If you haven't at least started to go gluten-free, which I believe every single person needs to do, whether you're allergic or not, because it's harmful to the body. If you're not getting enough whole food nutrition from fruits and vegetables, and if you're still eating things that are containing processed sugars or added sugars, start there. You are going to get an increase in energy. You'll likely get some weight loss. You'll feel better in your body just making those 3 changes. Now, if you're the person like, I do that, right? I eat pretty good. I'm getting most of my water in. What's next? Are you moving your body on a consistent basis? These things are simple. You probably hear it all the time, but are you doing it, right? That's the bigger difference. Are you doing it? So if you're not moving your body daily, that can be as simple as a 10-minute stretch. That can be as complicated as you like to work out for 30 to 60 minutes at the gym. It doesn't matter. Our body just requires movement. Movement is life. It helps circulate toxins and create energy and build lean muscle. We need to consistently be moving our bodies. So I encourage you, if you're not at least consciously doing some type of movement for minimum 10 minutes a day, really should be 30, start there. And it doesn't have to be intense. I'm not saying go hit crazy workouts, but if you're not doing that before you say nothing's working for me, move your body, get new energy in your cells and see what changes. And then the 4th one for our simple steps before we get into more complicated ones, how stressed are you? Especially women. Stress is going to make you tired. Stress is going to make you fat. Stress is going to make you have headaches. Stress is going to trigger autoimmune issues, thyroid issues, adrenal issues, hormone issues, all the things. Stress impacts all of those, right? So are you stressed? Are you overbooked? Are you overworked? Are you doing too many things? Are you consistently implementing some type of stress management every single day? Every day, even if it's as simple as 30 seconds of breath work, or if you want to do a 30-minute meditation, there's a large spectrum, just like with exercise. I don't need you to be perfect, and I don't need you to be doing a 90-minute meditation. I need you consistently doing something that lowers your stress response. And I will tell you, for me, that is probably the biggest difference between times I feel great and times I don't feel great, is how consistent have I been with my stress management on a daily basis. So ladies, if you're not doing those 4 things, that's where we start. Those are foundations: hydration, nutrition, movement, stress management. If you go into the thyroid and hormone support group, I have videos, simple videos for all of those. There are resources, there's stress management techniques. I give you nutrition instructions. We have recipes in there. There's tons of free resources that you can start all of those if you haven't done that yet. Now, if you're the lady who has done most of that at some point or currently, and you're still thinking, I don't get it. I eat good. I move my body. I'm getting my water. I'm doing all the things. I've tried some meditations. I'm doing better about being mindful, but I still can't lose weight. I still have no energy. I still have no sex drive. Like, I don't know where to go from here. The next step for you is always find your next missing piece. Something is missing. Something is draining your body of that energy. Something is creating an imbalance that's allowing your body to hold on to fat cells. There is always a reason. And for women, typically, somewhere in there's going to be a hormone and an adrenal imbalance, because we are so hard on our bodies. Our hormones fluctuate. We're busy. We're stressed. We don't take care. We don't prioritize self-care most of our lives. And that takes a major toll on your body. So if you have hormone imbalances, if you have adrenal imbalances, some of the stuff you're trying to do might not only not be working, it might actually be creating more harm than good. Because if you have deficient adrenal glands and you're trying to work out harder to lose weight, guess what? Not only are you not going to lose weight, you're probably going to gain weight because your adrenals can't handle that stress. If you are somebody who's heard that fasting is great, but you have low progesterone and you try and do intermittent fasting, you're going to feel horrible. Your body's going to crash. You're going to go into burnout because it wasn't the right thing for you because you don't have enough progesterone to support your ability to fast for a long period of time. So there might be really good things you're trying that your body just can't handle right now. So if you are the frustrated woman who's thinking, where do I go from here? And you've never checked your hormones and your adrenals, 100% that is your next step. Now, there are lots of other things that we'll talk about today that could also be contributing, but I really believe that for most women, it's so powerful to see what your hormones look like, what your adrenals look like, and then it can give us more ideas into what else is potentially causing those imbalances based on what your levels look like. It is so fascinating. So I'm going to pull up for you guys an example of the hormone testing that we do, because I want you to see the detail and the information you can glean from testing your hormones properly. Now, we do not test hormones originally in blood. Sometimes we'll use that for rechecks and testing moving forward, but initially we always check hormones and adrenals in urine because you get to see pathways that you do not get to see on a blood test. So this example that I'm bringing up right here is a lady who came to me about 75 pounds overweight, exhausted, anxious, full of aches and pains, but who truly had tried almost everything as far as lifestyle goes. This was not her first stop. This was not the first thing she did. She had done lots of different nutrition plans. She was working out consistently. She was doing everything she thought she should and was not seeing benefit at all. She's like, I could go 2 hours to the gym and the scale doesn't move a single ounce. Like it stays there or goes up. I don't understand what's going on. We pull her hormones, and not only am I going to share what her levels were like, but I'm going to share what that started us thinking. Like, okay, clearly something is creating this. So what we're seeing here is our hormone pathways. We're going to start over on the right for her progesterone. Now, she was about 34 years old when we first took this Dutch test. So progesterone for a 34-year-old should be right up here in mid-range. She's a healthy, cycling female who still gets consistent cycles. You should have mid-range progesterone. Her progesterone was already down in perimenopausal range. That's almost a menopausal range at 34 years old. Now, whenever I see incredibly low progesterone, especially in a younger female, if you are under 50 years old and your progesterone is this low, there is always, and I say this very adamantly, there is always a stressor draining your progesterone. So as soon as I see that, I start thinking, okay, we're either dealing with some very serious mental stress, right? Is there a stressful situation? Has there been a trauma? Or we're dealing with a very serious physical stressor. Is there a chronic infection? For me, I had very low progesterone myself. My chronic infection was Epstein-Barr that kept draining my progesterone. But low progesterone in a younger female always indicates a source of either emotional or physical stress. So in seeing that, I start thinking, okay, what else do we check for, right? Are there infections? Are there overgrowth? What's taxing her body, creating that progesterone to be so low so that not only can we get it back up, but her body will actually be able to maintain those changes, right? One of the things I love to teach is, yes, we can use some herbs, we can use some plant-based bioidenticals, we can do those things to get your levels back to normal, but we have to retrain your body to be able to stay there long-term, right? That's the more important piece of that puzzle. So for her, it really took finding her stressors. She ended up having an H. pylori infection in her gut. She had crazy amounts of inflammation in her gut, leaky gut, intestinal permeability, all of these things that were creating massive physical stress on her body, as well as some unmanaged stressors at home. She was allowing her environmental stress to really put too much pressure on her mindset, which was also destroying that progesterone. So just in seeing her progesterone levels, we knew, okay, here are the next most likely steps we have to take to figure out why this is happening, right? So you see, we're not just trying to change the number of progesterone. We're not just trying to jack you up on progesterone. We're really using this as a piece of your puzzle to figure out why your body is doing this, right? That's the more important question. She also had incredibly low testosterone. So a woman with really low testosterone, it's going to be hard to burn fat. It's going to be hard to build lean muscle. It's going to be hard to get the benefits you're looking for at the gym if your testosterone is tanked. But in addition to that, she also had a major estrogen dominance. I mean, her estrogen was almost double where it should be for her body. Now, an estrogen dominance is so common when we have a lot of excess weight gain that won't move, puffiness, especially around the midsection, anxiety, heavier, painful periods, endometriosis. There is so many things linked to having these estrogen dominant type of levels, and that alone will make you feel horrible. Estrogen dominance makes you feel heavy and sluggish and puffy and irritable. And here's the thing, no amount of exercise, no amount of, nutrition absolutely helps, but you can't just eat yourself out of an estrogen dominance. It needs to be addressed appropriately to really be able to balance that. Now, whenever I see an estrogen dominance like this, I start thinking, okay, her body is not metabolizing estrogen properly. It's not getting rid of it, or it's not using it and then getting rid of the remainder. It's letting it build up. So then our question is why, right? My question is always why, because there's always an answer. So for a lot of women, if you have too much estrogen buildup, something's going on with your detox pathways. We have a sluggish liver. A lot of times this happens when we have no gallbladder. If you've had your gallbladder removed, if there's been other toxic loads, right? Has there been mold exposure? Do we have heavy metals? Do we have any other things that are gunking up the liver that it can't properly metabolize your estrogens, right? Estrogen dominance isn't just a diagnosis and you say, oh, I have too much estrogen, let's just try and get it down. It's, oh man, why is my body building up so much estrogen? It's clearly not using it appropriately. How do we fix that, right? A majority of the time, our hormones are converted and metabolized through the liver, through the gut, through the kidneys, through all of those detox organs. So seeing something like this, we start thinking, okay, what things can we find that are clogging up the detox pathways, correct those, and then guess what the body will do? It will normally metabolize your estrogen, right? It knows how to do it. Your body always knows how to do it. If it's not doing it properly, it's just because you're missing the next piece. So this is huge for me. If you have never had your adrenals and your hormones tested, you are a woman, I highly recommend that as your next step, because then it will also give us ideas of what those next steps should look like for you. Now, if you've had your hormones tested, they say everything looks normal, there are still, remember, we're never done. We're always investigating. It's another step further. From there, you're thinking, okay, do I have any gut issues, right? Any type of gut, leaky gut, gut impermeability stuff is going to create massive change in your physiology. We know that gut issues are linked to autoimmune disease, to hormone imbalance. We know it's linked to all kinds of other chronic illness, yet so rarely are we truly looking at the gut and the gut microbiome. If, let's say, that comes back perfect, which is very rare, I almost never test someone's hormones and adrenals and their gut and everything is perfect. We have damaged our bodies over and over and over again. But let's say it does. Well, that's where you start thinking, okay, is there something bigger? Do I have chronic Epstein-Barr? Is there maybe some Lyme disease? Do I have a mold exposure? And investigating those kind of deeper, bigger issues that might be present. And then again, if for some reason that comes back negative, then you're looking at the next step. Is there anything genetic going on? Am I looking for any other pathways that are not working appropriately inside my body? Start looking at specific organ systems. All of that to say there's never a place to stop. You always keep looking. If nothing is working, it's only because you haven't found your next piece yet. Every single time, keep looking for that next piece. And sometimes it's not a quick process. I have truly been doing this. I mean, I started my holistic journey of my own healing, I say at 10 years old, because that's when I first got my first chiropractic adjustment. But truly, when I was about 18 and got really into food and exercise, and fast forward 2 decades later, and I'm still working on my health, right? 20 years later, I'm still working on my health, and I'm nowhere near done because I'm always going to be looking for the next piece. And then sometimes I go back to my original pieces and I check back in with them and I say, oh, maybe something's off a little bit and I need to refix it. And then I work on that again. It is a constant evolution, but I want to tell you, it's your best form of self-care. Every single time, being able to properly take care of your mental and physical health, not only as self-care for you, but as the example you need to be setting for your kids, for your family, for the people around you, because every single time, the happier, healthier version of you benefits everybody else. So doing this for yourself is never selfish, never. You being healthy helps everyone else around you. So if you want to keep going at the speed you're going, doing all the things that you're doing, the most important thing you can do is choose one of the things we talked about today? Do you have a lifestyle change you have to make? Do you have stress management you have to deal with? Have you done more detailed testing to figure out why you feel like nothing's working for you? One of those pieces of your puzzle is your next step. So I want you in the comments to tell me what your next step is. What one of those things are you going to work on to get yourself closer to the healthiest version of you? I'm going to drop links in the comments. We're coming down to the last few days at that hormone test, the hormone and adrenal mapping. We're offering it at a $50 off discount for the rest of this week. I'll put that link in there. If you want to get that hormone and adrenal mapping, definitely take advantage of it over the next couple of days because that sale will end on Monday. But I highly recommend it for every single woman, no matter what phase of life you're in. Cycling, perimenopause, menopausal, hysterectomy. It is still relevant and it is perfect for every woman to know what her hormone levels look like. And also it includes your test review appointment with one of my doctors. So you'll get to do a virtual consultation. We'll review your results and we'll help you make a plan for the next steps to correct whatever you see on that testing. And that is at a $50 discount for just the rest of this week. So make sure you claim that. I'll drop the links to all of that in the comments. But the journey to wellness is never over. There's a reason it's a journey. Wellness is not a destination. It's in the path of continuing to make improvements and changes and modifications and going back. And sometimes you fall off and you start over and you fall off and you start over. That's normal. We just never give up. You never stop. It's never done. It's never over. And it is always worth prioritizing yourself because it is the most important investment you can make in your time, in your finances, in your headspace. Taking care of your health is 100% the number one thing you need to focus on. So reconfirm that in your head today. Choose one of these choices that you're going to use to get back on track over the next couple of weeks and tell me in the comments which one it is. And then we'll be back next week again with more teachings and trainings. We're going to talk about hair loss, causes of hair loss, what you can do about hair loss. I get a lot of questions about that. So we're going to talk all about what to do if you are struggling with hair loss or hair thinning. So join me next week for all of that information.